Good evening to all you book fiends out there, book fans, book fiends, and book friends out there. It's your buddies, Butch Rob, here to talk about another Star Trek novel, because you know what time it is, Rob. You know what time it is?
Trek Tuesday? I don't know.
Trek Tuesday.
Is it time to see if there's a Trek in my pocket?
That's exactly right. So check your, gentlemen, empty your pockets, look for checks, treks, checks, chicks, bricks.
Put your right hand on the mat to your right shoulder. Right?
Trading places. Yes, very nice. I love that reference. So yes, tonight we are coming at you with our 27th Star Trek pocket novel. Having already done the 14, as you know, the 14 Bantam books, and now this is 27 out of the first 50 pocket books. We are racing along. Nothing like a Vegas trip during summertime for Rob to get some reading done.
Yeah.
And we are doing tonight the fourth novel in the line of 50, The Covenant of the Crown, from December of 1981. That's a Wayback Machine, that is. Pre-Star Trek 2, that's how you know. They don't even know about the Reliant yet. They don't even know about Regular One. They don't even know about Saavik yet, Rob. That's so crazy.
That's unbelievable. It's hard to believe. It really is.
Yeah, our last novel was background on Saavik, and these guys didn't even know about Saavik. In fact, I read that this book, it tells you, in fact, at the start date, it tells you is 7815.3. They said it's the first adventure they had after the Star Trek The Motion Picture. So that's why when you look at the cover, it looks like the coats that they wore outside when they went outside the ship and went face to face with Voyager 6. Face to disc with Voyager 6. That's why they look like that on there, because that's the time frame it takes place in. I think that's fun.
Yeah.
So what's your memories of this book?
I think I said before, the first 10, I remember reading them all. I didn't remember exactly or at all what it was about, but I remember towards the end I was reading it here in Vegas I was at the Mandalay Bay pool, because we stayed at the W, not the Wynn like I thought I booked, the W.
Got that lazy river at the Mandalay Bay. It was worth it, buddy.
It was, well, you have to bring your own inner tube. They don't rent them.
They don't rent inner tubes there. Oh my god!
No, if you can believe that. And you can go on, which is what we did. We did a couple laps without a tube. It carried you along.
Yeah.
But towards the end, spoiler, when she's like, "Fuck this, I'm going back." I was like, I kind of remember this.
Really good for you.
So that was fun, and I, didn't have high expectations for it, but I actually enjoyed this. It felt like an episode, which I always like, and I appreciated the fact that they didn't have to save the galaxy. They didn't have to save the biggest threat humankind has ever faced. It was just a mission.
Yeah.
So that was fun. I really liked that. I'm like, thank you.
Yeah,
we're not in 3-minute universes invading. We're not doing all this other bullshit.
It does feel like a nice story where it's just like, I guess there's the economic well-being of a small. They call it a quadrant, but we know that the quadrants are like parsecs in Star Trek or in Star Wars, right? They don't know how to use them. The current parlance in Star Trek is a quadrant is 1/4 of the galaxy, but they had quadrants as little areas. This little corner of the Federation is in trouble if this planet falls to the Klingons, and the Klingons are backing the bad guys. And there's been an 18-year civil war, and now they're trying to get the king back on the throne because things are going back the other way. And it turns out the king's dying, and what are you going to do? And they add some fun backstory to Kirk post-Farragut, pre-Enterprise.
Yes, I love that. You remember when we used to watch the show, we used to eat that shit up and be like, oh, yeah, I was stationed here as a lieutenant, and I, whatever. Right. I remember them as peaceful folk, and now they've got flintlocks and whatever, all that kind of stuff. So I did enjoy that too. I was like, because that gives us backstory on our heroes and fills in some gaps. So that was good stuff.
For sure, yeah. And this does have a ring to it in that some of those early novels and some of the Bantam novels too were written by people who were pretty good, maybe sci-fi writers, but didn't make necessarily for being a great Star Trek writer.
Yeah.
And I think this guy who wrote this, Howard Weinstein, he was born in September 1954. He's 71 years old now.
Road trip.
Yeah, he was the youngest Star Trek writer to ever sell a script. He sold The Pirates of Orion to the producers of the animated series when he was 19 years old and a freshman in college. He was studying oceanic biology or something like that, which is how he gets not only his next novel, which we've already done, which is Deep Domain, which takes place on an ocean world, but he also got a special thanks. He also got a special thanks in the credits of Star Trek for The Voyage Home, the movie, because he was an advisor on that. Of course, that is just 5 years after this novel is published, but it's also
he's in college.
Well, so, but it's also 12 years after he wrote The Pirates of Orion. So that was 73, and that was 85 when they were making that movie. So I think
he was an old man in his 30s.
Yeah. An old man in his 30s. Yeah, we're gonna get to the old man thing here in a little bit. So in this case, the mission, as we know, I'm looking at my notes and I see that I wrote down the title of this book as The Covenant of the King, number 4. No, it's The Covenant of the Crown. So if I said it wrong before, I'm correcting myself. But if we didn't get the idea is they've got to restore the rightful monarch to the head of a planet. And I'm like, it feels a little weird rooting for, boy, let's get that dynastic monarchy back in place, But again, they understand that they're not cultural elitists. If that works for them and they're a fair and just king, then or queen, as it were, they'll let them do their thing. And besides, they need the friendly people to get them some. What's the MacGuffin of this? Tridentite. Or whatever, tridentite or whatever, which is a power source that's more powerful than uranium, and it's not as dirty as uranium and stuff like that. And so that's MacGuffin number 1. We're going to, of course, come to MacGuffin number 2, which is the eponymous crown, as it were, that they have to go in search of. So there's a lot of kind of like Arthurian biblical kind of like Ark of the Covenant, Shroud of Turin. Cup of Christ, kind of Holy Grail kind of stuff going on here.
Yeah. Good stuff. And I thought we were supposed to be tolerant of other cultures. What are you applying the no kings bullshit to fictional?
Yeah, yeah. That's the thing. It's not no kings in the way of the 21st century. It's no kings in the way of ruling dynasties kind of thing. But again, it works for different cultures, and we've seen it in different places. I will say that this is reminiscent of a lot of episodes from the original series, right? So, I mean, right off the top of my head, I'm thinking all the Brush Wars episodes, right? So, Friday's Child and Errand of Mercy and Private Little War. There's that part where they're like, that guy wants to have a spear with a metal tip, and I was like, is that the Klingons giving metal tips to the spears of some of these people? No, that's a different planet.
Sons of bitches, yeah. No, I was definitely getting Friday's Child and Private Little War vibes.
Yes.
I also appreciated that, we had some inclement weather. We had, with the benevolent.
It's not all like beautiful, idyllic planets, right? So, yes.
Right. Yeah, not like, it's like, it's just like Earth. I could really go for some R&R. What the hell? Surely for everybody. No, it wasn't one of those. It kind of remember the Strange New World season 1 episode where they landed on some planet, and I think it was the Gorn one. The weather was just awful and everything. That's cool. It makes you feel like you're, it's like, this is a different world of the many, worlds. It's not like, a Las Vegas planet or whatever. He was doing something else, and I thought he had a good feel for how the characters acted and talked, and so that's always nice.
Hey, and speaking of that, do you remember the last novel that we did was? Let's see, which one was that? That was the Pandora Principle. Had very little Captain Kirk in it. Do you remember that? How that happened?
I do remember that. I was like,
we're right back into very little Captain Kirk in this episode. A little bit more this time, but he's not where all the major action is happening this time.
No, but it was fun because he wasn't completely ignored. I mean, he was.
Oh yeah.
You know how Ricardo Montalban always says, like, well, my part wasn't very big, but then I realized when I'm not on screen, they're talking about me on screen. That's kind of how it felt with Kirk here in this one. They are mentioning Kirk, even though it's. And I'm okay with the Spock centric. Obviously, we wouldn't be reading the novels if we weren't okay with Spock centric stories.
We'd have given up a long time ago. Yeah.
Yeah, we would have said this isn't our thing. But I thought Kirk's absence wasn't as keenly felt because he was getting mentioned and stuff. Unlike the aforementioned Pandora Principle, where you wouldn't have known Kirk was in Starfleet in that book. I mean, that was ridiculous.
Yeah, well, he's got a brand new admiral to deal with this time. Who we I don't know if we're supposed to like him or not. The Admiral Paul Harriman, the British guy who's smoking his ivory pipe and bitching at Kirk and stuff like that. And you give him the usual Admiral rigmarole. They're both admirals, right? I mean, that's the whole thing. Is that it's not Captain Kirk, it's Admiral Kirk, right? He's still Admiral Kirk, I think. He's just in command of the ship, I think. But once again, we're Klingons instead of Romulans this time, and I think our batting average has been a lot lower with the Klingons than it has been with the Romulans. But it feels like here they're doing at least a little bit of a job of we have a Klingon cruiser and we have a Klingon spy ship. And we have some Klingon spies, and we have a guy who's a traitor. He's an Arn Darvin from Arn Darvin from Tribbles, kind of
Tribbles.
A mole inside somebody else's government, kind of a thing. So that's always cool.
Well, and it kind of gave us some, the Klingons were being dastardly, and it gave us some, insight into what other jobs in the Klingon Empire might look like. It's not always you're, in charge of a battle cruiser. This one poor bastard's like stuck on some shithole planet for 20 years or whatever. I like that. And playing the long game, kind of like, we always hear about, Japan's playing the 100-year, China. Yeah. They're playing the long game. And that's kind of felt like what the Klingons were doing in this one a little bit.
Absolutely. So it was a nice wrinkle for the Klingons, and I think Weinstein did them better than some of the other authors we've read. I'm looking at you, Klingon Gambit.
And we still don't know what the Gambit was.
No idea what the Gambit was. But we have Chekhov needing to lose 10 pounds. That's going to lead to if I have a complaint about the last 30 pages of the book. They eat 4 major feasts in the last 30 pages of the book. It's like, oh, they're having a feast again. Well, that's why this is me having to lose weight myself. So I'm currently suffering having to read about them and get another feast.
I had one of the best meals of my whole life in Vegas. Butch, did I tell you about this?
On this trip? No, you didn't.
Yeah, we were at the Dub, as I call it, and they had a Greek or a Mediterranean restaurant called Orla or Orlos or something like that. And, it had my favorite thing, no prices on the menu.
That's when you know you're in trouble.
When it's like, buckle up. And so we go in there and, we sit down and this was like I think we made a reservation for 5 p.m. because they didn't open until like 4. And we're looking at the menu and everything looks pretty good, but they had like a 7-course meal, where they it's they start you off with an appetizer and then another thing, and it ends in dessert, right? And it said 125 a person. And I said, let's just do that. We'll just do that and see what it is, and that'll be fun. So they bring out, the first thing is a little, not big, little thing, one of each for each of us, of caviar, some kind of caviar, tartar, or something like that. I can't remember if it's tartar or caviar. I think it's tartar. And then the next thing they brought out some pita bread and baba ganoush, whatever that is, like hummus. And so that was pretty good. And I told Darlene, go ahead, get the wine pairing or whatever with it. I was just having ginger ale. And then she goes, hey, for the step 3 here, phase 3, it had like 4 things on it. She goes, did we pick one? They said, no, you get all of them. It was sea bass, So you got a fish, sea bass, a giant lamb chop,
Good Lord.
and then a filet mignon, and some kind of cabbage something. But I was looking at the filet mignon and the sea bass was good,
Yeah.
but the lamb chop I was like, because I love lamb. And
Yeah.
I was like, this thing's huge. I mean, it was a bit big for a
Usually
lamb chop.
usually lamb chops are pretty small, yeah.
Yeah, it was more. It looked more like it's like halfway between a pork chop and a lamb chop. It was a good size lamb chop with a lot of meat on it, and then a filet mignon. And I'm not accustomed to getting a filet mignon and other stuff for dinner.
Yeah. That usually is dinner.
Yeah. And we got that, and we still like 3 more courses to go, and it was that was the main section, but it was delicious. I mean, it was really something. But with Darlene's wine pairing, which was I think like another $75, it came to like $368 before the tip and all that. So it was over $400 for dinner. But it was an unbelievable meal, and I would recommend if you want to splurge on our trip in August. That's I definitely.
We are.
It was a memorable meal. We were like, that was really something. And she got the guys telling her the history of the wine. Oh, this one's from Lebanon and blah, all this stuff. So she was reading that up. But it was really fun. But anyway, it was a covenant-like banquet. What I assume happened after the Macho King got coronated.
Yes,
something like give me the filet mignon. Yeah.
Yeah, maybe that was the reason the lamb chops are so big, is they were snow sheep lamb chops.
They were snow sheep. Yeah.
Yeah. So let's see. We get what else we got in this? We have you know what else it made me feel like? It made me feel like a couple. Instead, it's not Kirk this time. It's McCoy with the young love interest this time. I had a couple times where it's like older man teaching younger girl what love is, kind of a thing. It's like it feels very like Gamesters of Triskelion, kind of. It's like you'll find something.
I never begrudge Bones a romance.
Yeah, Bones is really struggling with it though, because the math says she's 26 or she's 24 or something like that. They said she was 6 when they disappeared. They got 18 years, so she's 24. And it says, I looked it up. I said, how old was McCoy during Star Trek the Motion Picture? And they said he was 46 years old during the motion picture. McCoy was. So he's 47, let's say, right here. And I was like, good Lord, we're almost 10 years older than he was in Star Trek the Motion Picture. Although I think DeForest Kelley was probably older than that in 79. I'm going to go out and guess that, but I don't know.
Yeah, but so it's kind of maybe they're France-like in their math for how old a relationship is still kosher or whatever.
Well, I mean, she's not like she's 15; she's 24. So
it's not like Kirk with the Shakespearean actress.
The Shakespearean actress with the throbbing and the quoting and the blood,
the power in her hands or whatever. Yeah, well, the worst age difference, of course, was Miri and Kirk, because she was like 200 years older than Kirk. Yeah, that's outrageous. Yeah, she should be ashamed of herself.
You should be ashamed, you old woman. old woman, said I. Yeah, so, I think, let's see, I think all that being said, here's one of my takeaways. When I'm reading the book, for the most part, I'm going, this book would work just fine if it was not a Star Trek story.
Yeah.
And sometimes I don't know what to do with that. There are times when I go, why does this need to be a Star Trek story? But it doesn't mean it can't be a Star Trek story. It didn't need to be a Star Trek story.
No, it was kind of like Ishmael in that sense.
Yeah, exactly. And so I, at the end of the day, I spent a lot of the reading time on this going, man, this is going to be bottom, and then it ended up not being in the bottom. It's in the middle third. So for me, but I'm spoiling.
Okay.
But you want to jump into this?
Let's jump, Daddy.
All right, so you know what else? It's a refreshing change from recent books is 4-page chapters. There's nothing like the victory of a chapter read in 5 minutes. There's nothing like a victory like that. It's great.
That's a sweet, sweet feeling.
The first words of this book are, I swear, it's gray, Jim. And I was like, it's green? That had to have been a reference to that. I was wondering. Yeah, because Bones has found a gray hair. And I wrote down, well, he's in his 50s, and then I looked that up. It's like, actually, shit, he's not even in his 50s. He's 47. But we had gray hair when we were in our 40s. So we can relate, is what I'm saying.
You're not kidding. Yeah.
Yep. And so there's going to be a birthday party. It's unclear whether McCoy knows about the birthday party. We get a lot of interior monologue from McCoy about how he laments that, he liked it better when the ladies aboard weren't all young enough to be his child, kind of a thing. And, but eventually, Kirk feels he can't cancel the party because of cruel mutiny. If they don't get to have a big party and a big feast, kind of like a smorgasbord. So it goes on, and they kind of even surprise McCoy, and he comes out of the room kind of happy. Chekhov can't eat anything that's there because he is unexpectedly 10 pounds overweight, and now he's like verklempt. He's got to figure out how to lose that 10 pounds, so he's eating a leaf of romaine lettuce or something like that. Which, if you dress it up nicely,
they're cutting like giant slices of pie or whatever, and he's nothing.
That's exactly right. But all that reverie is broken up when he gets an urgent call from Spock on the bridge, not at the party, of course. Kirk to the bridge, Admiral Harrington calling.
That's never good.
Never good.
Not good.
And the word we get from Admiral Harrington is that if this mission fails, the whole Quadrant J221 will be Klingon next year. Well, that's.
Do you think they? You were talking about this a minute ago about what a quadrant is or whatever. They're kind of using it. Do you think like sector maybe?
Yeah, it's like
maybe a region of solar systems.
Yeah, you're going from I can never remember what's bigger, a square mile or a hectare or an acre or they're all census tract item. They're all different sizes and stuff like that. And the people who know. But the thing is, when you're making up galactic ones, if you're not an astrophysicist, you're making them up, right?
Well, and who's to say that they have the same meaning 3 centuries from now as that? We thought Pluto was a planet, for crying out loud.
I was just gonna say the Pluto thing. Yeah, we grew up thinking Pluto's a planet. What do we know? Yeah. So it turns out this planet, Shad, interesting name for a planet, is a major source of tridentite, which is some sort of an efficient, clean power source, kind of like uranium, but way cleaner and more efficient and stuff like that. And the people of Shad have shared this not only with the Federation, but also with the surrounding planets, which are not part of the Federation, but they're friendly to the Federation, and the Klingons want in. And so they've been backing the Mode Alliance, which rebelled, and so much so that they chased the king off the planet. Now, why do we know all this stuff? Because Kirk was stationed there when he was on the Normandy, which is kind of fun. Back in the day.
And he was there for a little bit, right?
Yeah, it's long enough to know the king and kind of become like an advisor to the king, a foreign advisor to the king, kind of like your Lafayette was to Washington, kind of a thing. He's an outsider who's an advisor to the king and stuff like that. He's a lieutenant commander at this point, so he's nearing his captaincy. Kirk is. Okay.
You know what I was thinking of when I was thinking about this? You remember in the wildly overrated episode, the Cobra Maneuver?
Yeah.
Yep. He's starting a countdown. No, that our favorite favorite episode. And what's his name? After one drink decides, oh yeah, I'll be an intern here for whatever. I think it was a China talking, but he's like, yeah, I'm gonna have an extended.
You're saying I can have all the Taranga I want? Well, I'm in. Yeah. How big are can I ask you a question? How big are your lamb chops? Can I ask that question? Okay, that's fine.
Exactly. And, maybe he comes back and after a 1-year internship with that guy and Baylock. And, it seems like it's something people do in Star Trek. They might be stationed on a planet for a year or whatever as a side quest or whatever. Yeah. It's kind of fun. These guys are getting these experiences, kind of like going to the Peace Corps or whatever.
Yeah, Peace Corps is a great example of what it probably is, right? It's like you're doing some cultural exchange and stuff like that. And sometimes, sometimes they know you're from another world, and sometimes they think you're from another continent on their planet, and so, but whatever it is, you're doing your thing.
We come from a far place or whatever.
Right. The other side of your ocean. Yeah. So we learned that the war is about to end. It's a primitive war, so there's no nuclear exchange or anything like that. The civilization hasn't fallen. It's just been a long war, and they're about to end it. The loyalists are winning, and so it's time for them to go back in power. But the loyalists are all scattered. The king's been gone for 18 years, and so they're like, "Who's going to be in charge?" Well, it turns out that the people who formed the base of their civilization had an idea about how you find out the right person to be in charge, and it wasn't some wet trollop in a lake throwing swords at people. It turns out it was a crown you put on your head. And if you can make the blue cloudy gems turn clear, then you're the king or queen. So
I like it.
Yeah, the problem when they find out is that, by the way, the king is not doing well. It's a rough planet. He's really not doing well. His wife had died years before, and his 6-year-old daughter is now 24 years old, and she's now the hope because McCoy gets there, does a quick exam, and says, yeah, he's not going to survive the trip. I'm sorry, Kirk, because we know he's a friend of yours and an old confidant of yours, but he's not going to survive the trip. I think we don't get a lot. We get a little bit of that. Kirk, this guy was a mentor to him. We get a little bit of that, but not as much as I kind of thought we might by the end of the story, because at the end of the day, the story's not really about him. I'm kind of thinking Jose Ferrer as the old man, who's dying, or as the king or whatever, the really, really old man, and his young daughter, who I'm going to go Sydney Sweeney, we'll just say, is playing.
I'll put, I have a major. She's my current celebrity crush or whatever.
She was they were talking about how beautiful she is, and so you're like, who's the most considered, one of the most beautiful women? I'm just going to go Sydney Sweeney. She's about 24. So,
okay.
Yeah. So there.
She's like 28.
Oh, yeah, that's probably true. I think it's maybe she's been around.
If you've been in a Rolling Stone video, you deserve to be,
only seems fair to me.
Name dropped on the podcast. Yeah.
Yep. So they figure they'll take them back, and then hopefully when they get there, they'll have somebody that can wear the crown and settle the things so that we can keep the tridentite flowing, as it were. The spice must flow.
Yes.
So now we're chapter 3, and it's we find out Stardate 7815.3. They're in orbit around Oran, which is the planet where King Steven and his daughter have been living in exile for 18 years. That's what
it sounds like a shithole. It sounds like
you were talking about planets that are inhospitable. It sounds about as bad as any of them. Yeah.
Yeah, it sounds like this is Ceti Alpha 5. Whatever. That's what it sounds like. It's just brutal.
Yeah, how it's brutal is when Spock's like, I kind of like it here. It's too hot for everybody else, Betty. That's right. And so they're like, well, you're king. They're telling the king, you're not going to survive this, so why try? And he's like, just because you can't do a thing doesn't mean you don't want to do that thing, right? So he wants to try, but he knows he's probably not going to make it. But he's going to give it the old college try. He knows he's the guy who can wear the crown and solve the puzzle of the gems and stuff like that. But whatever it is, their new plan is they're going to have to adapt. They're pretty sure he's going to die, so the new plan is to deliver his daughter Kaylin to Shad and have her take the throne.
Yeah, I like the king's kind of perspective. He's like, you think dying's really scary, but you find that as you age, you lose a little piece of yourself here and there. And I was like, I feel you, brother. Yeah. I think you're making a lot of sense.
Yeah,
he's not wrong.
There's some life lessons in that for sure. Yeah, so they don't. By the way, they don't tell Starfleet their plan has changed because they're afraid that if word gets out, then they got to keep this on the down low, and they believe that there's a spy in the midst of the king's escort. We're going to find out there's four people in his escort group, and one of them is a mole, but we don't know which, and they're going to spend, thankfully, a very, very short amount of time figuring out which of the four it is. It's fine.
Yeah, that could have really got us bogged down, but it really didn't.
Yeah, but there's Kirk meets with Kaylin, the daughter of Steven, I think is what his name is. Yes, like Steven, but it's Steven. And she's beautiful. She's knows a lot of her history and the history of their dynasty and the fate that she has. She has doubts about her abilities, and she's shy.
She's insecure.
She's insecure and shy, and she has something called chloriocytosis, which, by the way, spoiler alert, Spock had chlorocytosis in the animated series episode "The Pirates of Orion," written by Howard Weinstein.
I did not know that.
Yeah, so he's like, bringing it back. Hey, heard you missed this. We're back.
Yeah.
We're bringing our big bad chlorocytosis with us.
That's fine. Good for him. You invent something, yeah, throw it in there.
That's right. So chapter 4 kind of opens with some verses of mythology from the Book of Shad, talking about something about a crown and gems that become clear blue, demonstrating the worthiness of the wearer. Kirk and
I thought that was kind of fun. I like the kind of, other planet proverbs and, Bible verses or whatever. I thought that was kind of fun.
Yeah, because that's exactly right, because Kirk and McCoy are like, it's kind of like Arthurian legend or biblical miracles or whatever. But there's something called the power of times. That is what a rightful ruler has, what's called the power of times, and that's why they can figure out how to solve the misty cloudiness of these gems and mentally change it, and that's what makes them proof that they're a quality rulers if they can do that.
Yeah,
but we're not going to hear that phrase "power of times" very much. They drop it early and then they forget about it. So.
It doesn't matter. Yeah, it's just something. This is why we got to go get this thing. Very classic.
Yep, and so King Steven is likely he's dying on the Enterprise, and so they're gonna use him as a decoy and the Enterprise as a decoy. They want to keep the Klingons thinking Steven's on the Enterprise, where secretly they're gonna find a secret time to launch a shuttlecraft, the Galileo, again. I like that they keep really building the Galileo. I like how it keeps getting destroyed every time they rebuild it. And they send it around, and they're going to take Kaylin and McCoy and Spock are going to take her to the planet where they have to go to get the crown, and that planet is a planet called something 1212. I can't remember what it is.
What's that town in just across the border in Nevada we went to a Drew?
Jackpot, yes.
Yeah, they're going to the planet Jackpot.
Yeah, for all intents and purposes. Yeah, you can tell they want to be something special, but instead they're Sigma 1212, which is a nice planet. A little bit, yeah. It's also inhospitable. Bad storms, landslides, rain, floods, large beasts,
Galileo 7 beasts, basically, right?
Yes. Something similar to that, or at least Mugatu adjacent, if nothing else. Am I right? So
there you go.
Yeah. So we got some extended time of Kirk and Steven catching up on their old times, and then he gives Kaylin a tour around the ship as a tourist around the ship, and they almost get bumped into by Chekhov and Sulu, who are out jogging the corridors because Chekhov's got to lose that 10 pounds, I wonder where he thinks he's carrying 10 extra pounds. That guy is a tiny man, Rob.
Yeah, he's the Freddie Patek of Star Trek.
We're gonna get a chance. We're gonna get our picture taken with him, and he is a small guy. You'll be amazed just how small he is in person. My daughter Libby towers over him. I mean, he's a small guy, so it's great. So yeah, but
I couldn't be more excited.
Yeah, but Kirk is starting to feel jealous a little bit because. And who else is feeling jealous is Chapel. Chapel makes some crack about how Kaylin's been following McCoy around like his double or whatever. And they're both kind of feel like, but Kirk's like, aren't I the one who's supposed to hit on the ingenue? And that, it's weird because some writers seem to think that Chapel kind of has a thing for McCoy. You remember what novel were we reading where McCoy thinks they're going to die and he's lamenting that he never hit that with Chapel?
I don't remember that.
Thankfully I don't remember either because that wasn't a good idea.
I think I would. You'd think I would remember something like that. I thought it was pretty well established that Chapel had her eye on a certain pointed-eared crew member.
That's exactly right. Of a certain green-blooded nature.
I like the way he throws soup. I don't know. Something about him.
And then all this is going pretty well, and then the arrival of a Klingon cruiser complicates things, and they get no radio signal from the Klingon cruiser. It's not talking to them.
On the edge of scanner range.
Yeah, that's right. Klingons like to do that flitter on. They like to let we know, we're close enough that we're there, but we're too far away for you to know anything about us other than we're a cruiser. and other, some Star Trek novels treat Klingon cruisers like, well, if there's not 6 of them, we're okay. And some of them treat Klingon cruisers like, oh, they're a legit threat. This one's treating it like I used to treat it, which is a Klingon battle cruiser is a threat to the Enterprise.
You steer clear. You give it. You cross the street.
Yeah, exactly.
Give it a wide berth.
I think there's too many. I think there's too many authors who treat the Enterprise the way that Myrna and her co-writer treat Spock is like, well, he's the baddest man in the galaxy. I don't know what he's got to worry. Just like Klingons are dangerous. I mean, they never feel as dangerous as they should in these novels, but they're dangerous. So
yeah.
So like the Steven has a near-death experience while Kaylin is reporting space sickness. She does seem interested in McCoy. McCoy throws the word poppycock out for not the first time or the second time. I'm also going to say this. I counted 3 snorts by McCoy in this novel. And there's a 4th snort, but it's not McCoy who does the 4th and final snort.
Butch, I probably would have noticed the snorts, but I was really distracted by bikini-clad women at the pool.
That's the benefit of reading in Vegas. You don't have to. You're just getting example of what is Kayla look. Maybe she's the blue swimsuit, or maybe she's the green swimsuit.
Yeah, I was getting broad brushstrokes, but I might have missed a snort here and there. Yeah.
Fair enough. Well, it doesn't make one happier when you're reading 3 snorts in the first 60 pages. I'm not going to lie. So then we get a great. There's talk about a spy. We find out that they get it. Their whole plan is when the Klingons aren't looking, or when there's some sort of distraction to release the Galileo so they can go on its way, and then they'll continue on their way as a distraction, so the Klingon battlecruiser will follow, which it does. But what they don't know is there's a Klingon spy ship that follows the Galileo because it sees it leave. And it's leaving again with McCoy and Kaylin and Spock on it.
All this shit reminded me of Star Wars.
Oh, yeah, when Boba Fett follows the Millennium Falcon.
Kind of peeling off there,
Yeah, that's a great example. By the way, this is a year after that, so maybe it's exactly what Howard Weinstein's thinking. Yeah, but
what I learned from science fiction growing up is that espionage is alive and well in the future.
By the way, I'm rewatching the series Lost, and there's an episode where our heroes, who are in 2005, some of them have been transported back into 1977 on the same island, and one of them is writing this thing in his notes, and he's asking his friend how to spell this one word, and the guy finally looks at the notebook. What are you writing about? And he's writing the script of The Empire Strikes Back from memory. He says, hey, it's 1977. Star Wars just came out. They're going to want to make a sequel, and I'm going to write it.
That's pretty funny.
So he's writing about, we go to the place, Chewbacca does this thing with his this thing, and it's ridiculous. So, yeah, I think that's fun that we're all kind of thinking the same thing is what I'm saying. Then we get some briefing room scene. We always like ourselves a briefing room scene here on Star Trek CineMcCollough. That's right. When they're talking about the spy, we learned that their security lieutenant in this episode is Jay Burns. I read Jay Burns and thought it's a dude. Jay Burns is a redheaded chick. So it's a redheaded Irish chick again. There's all the authors love themselves redheaded engineers or security people.
I can't argue with redheaded chicks. Yeah. We didn't have enough in the show.
That's exactly right. MacGyver's and the rest are found not found. I think that's what we had exactly.
Yeah, exactly.
But they're coming up with this plan to basically smoke out the mole in Steven's party because they're going to let them go on this planet, and then they'll just kind of follow them around and see who they get in contact with. Very sneakily, follow them around or whatever. We don't know if they use a Viridian patch on their shoulder or if they do one of those little laser beam implants in your arm, that you can use as a laser beam later if the episode calls for it. Well, we just know they're going to track them somehow. Yeah, so after the shuttle journey, I love how right at the start of the shuttle journey we hear McCoy says, "Spock, are we there yet?" Are we there yet? He's playing the little kid, which is
I like
fun.
that Spock was always slightly annoyed through the whole book.
Yeah,
It was fun.
He's just slightly annoyed. That's exactly right. That's if you're going to ask me what got this book kind of where it is on my list, I will say there's a lot of Spock and McCoy banter in this book. I don't think it's great, but what it lacks in greatness, it makes up for in volume. There's a lot of it. They spend a lot of time together.
And it rings true.
Yeah, and it rings too. Yeah, it does, and so I would give it credit for that. So there's that. So not only do we find out that there's a storm around the planet they're trying to get to, but they have to try and land. The problem is that Klingon scout ships are around them too. They're not going to try and land because they're not in as big of a hurry. So they're going to, but let's just say Galileo's experiencing a rough landing, and I use landing in quotation marks, it turns out.
It was harrowing. Yeah, it was a harrowing landing. It was Spock. All Spock could do to not burn up in the atmosphere and not to get destroyed on impact. Yeah. He barely accomplished it.
Yeah, exactly. Only Spock's piloting skills managed to get them to survive. And then Chapter 9 is the one where they're going to interview the 4 personal assistants of King Steven. We got Ellie, who's a personal manservant, and Beautray, who's a stable master, and Dania, who's Ellie's wife and the royal cook, and Nars. Nars is a former chief household staff. It turns out we're going to find out pretty quick it's Nars. Spoiler. And they're going to let them all go.
If you just read off those names, you know it's Nars right away.
Nars! So they're going to let them go on Xenophore and rendezvous with them again later. But they got to finish this mission, smoke out the guy so that they can get back and help Caleb. But they figure as long as that mole is around and still secret, they got to know what he knows. Because that'll tell them what the Klingons are. The problem is the Klingons know more than Kirk knows. He just doesn't know that yet. So, and so I wrote the next chapter is the wreck of the Galileo. It's no longer space worthy. Most of their food got lost to contamination in the crash. Spock is scouting out the area. It's pretty inhospitable. And
you have the other complication of the girl is diabetic or something. She needs her insulin or something like that.
Chloriocytic, yes.
Yeah, so they can't just stay in the shuttle because of the contaminated food, but also if they wander off, that could cause problems because she needs her medicine close at hand.
That's right. You got to keep it refrigerated or something is about there.
Yeah.
So the question is, will the Enterprise find them? Will they be eaten by the natives first? They relocate from the Galileo to a cave and are immediately captured by the natives. That's if this feels like Star Trek in any way more than this, they get captured a lot.
Yeah.
It's like walk there. There's very few walkable paths in this place, so it's kind of like you're not exactly going to hide anywhere. So they're captives, or rather, maybe they're slaves to be sold, or maybe they're rather slaves to be eaten. It's unclear. All of these are potential outcomes. The guy's like, well, if I can't sell them, at least I can eat them, right?
And I thought this is fun because they got. Looks like they put the bag on them, and the hill people or whatever who that
I'm thinking morgue. Thank you. Okay, you said morgue. I was exactly what I was thinking. Right.
Yeah. But also I liked the wrinkle of the flash flooding and stuff like that. I liked getting the inner monologue of the alien who all he wants is a damn thank you from somebody and maybe a metal tipped spear, but he's totally willing to eat Spock if he has to. But he's like, he's feeling. My manager never says thank you for all the hard work I'm doing. That kind of. It's kind of.
All I want is a metal tipped spear and a thank you. My God. And maybe an extra line.
I enjoyed all that stuff.
Maybe an extra large lamb chop. Okay, let me tell you the part of all this stuff that I didn't enjoy. They spend way too much time describing Spock fiddling with a post in the ground. At some point, he's got to loosen this post in the ground so they can get away. And it's like 3 pages. I counted them. 3 pages of him fiddling with a post in the ground. We get it. It's frozen ground. We get it. Yeah,
I liked it. I didn't think it was egregious. I liked it. I thought
this novel is not too long, so I'm not complaining because it's not like they turned it into a 300-page novel by going, let's do a whole 10-page chapter on trying to get a post out of the ground. But that being said, I wrote I wrote, chapter 12, I wrote Spock is in the elements while McCoy is sleeping and having bad dreams. And then Spock gets swept downstream. That's chapter 12. All right, let's move on. The tribesman from whom they escaped is pissed. And he picks up their trails, and now he's after them. He's the guy who's gonna find the Klingons later. So he gets his reward in the end, which I think is great. And he helps in the end too. So that's great.
Yeah, that's true. My favorite part about the Flash, they encountered a Flash slug, and it's a big one. So that was nice. I enjoyed it.
And he uses the medical bag as a flotation device, which is exactly what they tell you. So anyway, now chapter 14. Yeah, Nars is the weird one, and he's the one with he's the variable. So can Burns and Chekhov get him? Nars meets a man in Triton, which is on Xenophor. Triton is a town on Xenophor. We don't need a description of that. All we know is there's a guy he's meeting there, and the guy's name is Krail. He's a Klingon agent. He's been there for years and a day, as it were, biding his time, playing his hand for the Empire until such time as he'll turn out some news that the Empire can use. And immediately, as soon as that news falls into his lap, immediately after it does, Chekhov and Burns come kick down his door and the whole knock down his popsicle stand just like that. It's sad, but it's true. And so not only do they capture the mole that they have, but they capture kind of they treat this guy Krail like he's a well-known Klingon agent kind of a thing. So they've acquired an asset, because we forget, right? Chekhov was a navigator in the original series, but this is post motion picture. So Chekhov is now the security officer, right? Chekhov is the guy who in motion picture is the one firing the weapons. He's the guy doing the security checks. He's the guy meeting the unknown visitor on the shuttle who becomes Spock at the portal, because he's a security guy. So
it's fun that Chekhov, not only is he the smallest guy probably on the crew, but what we know about him from the movies is he gets his ass handed to him in every movie. Chekhov does. I mean, he's getting injured, he's getting knocked around, he's getting bugs put in his ears, he's getting shocked.
It's hard out
so
there.
That's who you want as your security chief.
It's hard out there for a pimp. It is, I'm telling you. All right, so So now we find our heroes, are winding their way through the Kinnar Mountains, where it's perpetually foggy. I'm looking at you, Bellingham. McCoy is doubting he's like, I left all of my optimism a few miles down back on the trail. But they got to find the settlement where the guy they're looking for, his name is Shern O'Tay, which is fun. It's like, so they're Irish on this planet. Okay, well, it's sort of describing, Loch Ness.
Today was a nice day, and it's supposed to be crappy for like the next 9 days, but it was 77 today, and my phone said 17 degrees above normal for this day of the year. I was like, it's June. I don't know why I live here. I really don't. But
we were 80, 90 days here, so it definitely was warm here.
I'll trade you.
It's going to be down to 73 and cloudy and rainy tomorrow, so there we go.
Yeah, it's going to be like 58 tomorrow.
So Kalen quotes a Robert Frost poem, and McCoy says, I prefer the Dixie Poets. Yeah, much of the way he likes his Georgium and Juleps. And
I think they're just called the Poets now.
Yeah, that's right.
I don't think they're the Dixie Poets anymore.
Ripped from headlines 12 years ago. Yes, exactly.
Yeah.
No, it's fun because I was listening to one of our other novel ones, and he was describing McCoy doing a good old-fashioned Southern filibuster.
What was the one where they're like, oh, yeah, I bet at this time, I think maybe it was Ishmael. Yeah, McCoy's ancestors are probably enslaving Uhura's ancestors, and we're like, ooh.
I was like, whose idea was it to write that on the page? That was great. There is nothing like that in this. I will say that. That's fun. The closest we get is the Dixie / just poets, as it were. We hear the legendary story of the snow sheep. And then Spock kind of bronzes with a young boy.
Were you getting Rush? Were you getting Bytor and the Snow Dog vibes?
Oh, absolutely. You can't help that. Spock tries to interrupt him by saying, "Oh, when I was a kid, I had to do something like that too. I had to go through the whatever ritual it was. When the little young boy has to go out in the desert with his 6 foot tall teddy bear with fangs and
And they're like, it's not always about you, Spock. But he's like, yes, it is. Read the Bantam book.
Yeah, they realize that the place they're going is reminiscent of Shangri-La, which is a valley that's supposedly up in the mountains of the Nepal. There's a valley where it's like lovely and temperate, and it's a beautiful place. It's a mythical place. It doesn't actually exist, but you'd have to get there to disprove it. Nobody could get there back in the 19th century, right? So those mountains were utterly impassable in the 19th century.
Is it in the same quadrant as Xanadu? I can't remember.
It's Shambhala, Shangri-La, all that stuff. Yes, exactly.
Was there any honeydew to dine on? No.
You know where it was? It was where Sky Captain: The World of Tomorrow Ends. That's where it was.
I like that book. Yeah, I like Sky
Captain. Right. So and then we see Shern's settle a petty, unnecessary dispute, which is he's just basically giving some lessons on being a good ruler to Kaylin, who's paying attention, which is good. I think he could actually be an advisor to her. And then Kaylin is glomming onto McCoy, and they have a George Michael moment. I wrote the father figure moment, kind of, a little bit. She makes her case to McCoy, who rebuffs her gently, but is later going to go, well, what am I doing? I mean, why am I being so rushing into this or something? He's at least,
he could have snuck one in there, I think. I feel like he could have.
Yeah. Well, I think he's like thinking, would that be the worst life in the world to live as like the consort to the queen of this planet or whatever? Maybe.
Yeah, something like that.
So they're talking
especially after he missed his, was it Natira? Is that what her name was on The World is Hollow? Yeah, he missed his opportunity. I don't even think he got to consummate that shit. She was the leader of a planet, so he might be gone, because I'm sure he had some sleepless nights after that. Gone, I wish I would have, could have, should have.
They got married, and then he's there for like another 7 hours or something like that. So
yeah.
So now Kaylin and McCoy are talking more love in the next chapter. She's wearing him down, it seems like, but then they're on a hiking trail somewhere, and they get attacked by a Mugatu. Again, I'm sorry, no, it's a Xanagret, which has this cool thing where it throws a snowball on the other, and you're like, "What's that over there?" And then it jumps you from behind when you're looking at.
Yeah, I like that. I thought it was great.
McCoy explains his romantic dilemma to Spock, who says, I would really rather not. And he's like, but no, I need your advice. And he's like, well, I'm not really practicing these matters. Spock, I'm asking you for that. That's hilarious. That's the one where I'm like imagining the kind of like same zany back and forth that Shatner and Nimoy were having in Star Trek 4, and stuff like that.
Well, how many episodes did we see Spock uncomfortably clearing his throat or something, when the birds and the bees was brought up, Yeah.
Perhaps the doctor should explain that. Yes, exactly.
Yeah, so I thought that was wonderful. I was picturing that,
Yeah.
I thought that was very fun.
Well, Spock does have the right advice. He says, if you do not share her feelings, then the only way you can get her to abandon them is to tell her. Right, and so he's like, "Well, I guess he's gonna have to." I was like, "Tale as old as time, man."
Yeah, and it was kind of fun because they're speculating. Well, is that going to throw off her ability to, uncloud the gemstones or whatever the fuck?
Oh, yeah, that's exactly it. Because they wake up the next morning, she's calling him Leonard and stuff, and he's like, "Oh no, we're picking out China patterns and all this stuff," and scrapbooking together, and he's like, maybe I should sing this sad Bonnie Raitt song, and then you'll get the gist here.
Well, and that is, I don't know if this has ever happened to you because you married Karen pretty young, but I was on a couple dates back in the day where you have a first date, and then the next time you see the girl, she's gone. Yeah, so and she's got the year planned out, and you're like, well, about that,
yeah. We had she and I had a moment like that when we were first dating. I remember doing the whole. I mean, I got to hang out with my friends. I mean, don't you have some other stuff to do besides? Yeah, that didn't go well. Yeah, but we made
my friend Jay. He's going to tag along.
That solved the problem right there, is what I'm saying. So, yeah. So the long and the short of it is that Bones is worried that he delivered this emotionally crushing news at exactly the wrong time, because they're about to hike to the Crown. So by the way, while I'm writing my notes for this, I have Star Trek Deep Space Nine on in the background. It's a season 4 episode called I'm trying to remember what it's called, The Sword of Kahless. So
Okay.
there's this ancient artifact called the Sword of Kahless, and they're trying to find it, and they have to go to
Kahless the Unforgettable,
that
or
is exactly
Kahless?
the one, right? Exactly the one that unified the one that unified the Klingon Empire, or whatever. And it was taken when the Herc invaded their homeworld, the Klingon homeworld, 1,000 years ago, and it was taken and has been lost ever since then. But they find it, and then they just fight over it, very Lord of the Rings style, and decide that none of them can have it. And I'm feeling this whole quest is like the Sword of Kahless, or the Grail quest, or however you want. You're after this thing, but you really can't have it. In this case, though, you can have it because it's not like a cursed thing. In this case, we're going to learn at the end, spoiler, that this Grail is the real thing. So, but it's a dangerous climb, and they almost fall. And then there's Caitlin's inner monologue is saying she's hoping the crown is going to make her a great leader because she doesn't think she is a great leader.
Right. Maybe it'll transform her in some way.
Yep. And so they get up there, and she goes in, and she's like, I have to go in there by myself. And so she does, and they all wait outside. And when she comes back out, she goes over, and she's crying. And she's like, yeah, it didn't work. I failed. Well, shit. So anyway, what'd you think of this novel? That's the end of our story. Oh, wait, no, it's not the end of our story. She's a fucking gal. We're going to try again. I like it. So good for her.
Well, and she's like, I'm going back. I'm gonna do this the hard way. I'm gonna go back, trudge through the snow and the wind and the unfriendly fauna,
yes.
And see. And then, to my surprise, they just take her word for it.
Yeah,
hey, it worked this time. Okay.
She phasers with a Zagnut or whatever it is again, and things like that. So she's learning leadership and life lessons on the way in this time. But she succeeds. They take her word for it. But who doesn't take their word for it? Is Sharon O'Tay is not going to take it. We're going to need to see this for real, and she demonstrates it. And as soon as she demonstrates it, they held a feast for them when they arrived to go look for the crown, and now they hold a feast for them because they have succeeded in earning the crown. And so another feast. We're having a good time. Your father would be proud, Spock says to her. And that's when Sharon O'Tay snorts. Yeah.
And we get the fun, she's not mad at McCoy anymore. Yeah. And then this handsome guy comes over and cuts in on their dance.
Yeah, that's the thing right there.
It's like, be all right.
Somebody younger, somebody my age. It's like that. There's somebody that's done for everybody. You're Sydney Sweeney with a crown on. You're Princess Sydney Sweeney. I'm sure you're going to find somebody.
Yeah. She. Well, if you said it's Sydney Sweeney, I'm going to reread it. I mean, that's.
But the fun thing is that that traitor that had them imprisoned before Spock figured out how to dig a stick out of the ground earlier has captured the only surviving Klingon, because we see earlier that the Klingons try to salvage. They're in the Galileo when a storm hits and it rolls the Galileo over, kills the lieutenant, and then the captain himself gets destroyed when a lightning bolt hits a tree and he gets gored with a piece of tree.
I'm glad you brought that up, because we sort of just
forgot all about it. Yeah, I forgot all about it.
This little side story about the Klingon ship and the commander and how he's survived 1 million assassination attempts, and normally you can, if you're the superior officer, you want to nail someone on your crew, they're going to take it and like it. And he's got this female officer, and she kind of likes him, but she knows that it's not a great career move to sleep with the captain, as it were. And you have the kind of sniveling. The Federation flag fluttering in the breeze, how quaint, guy,
till he gone,
the captain can barely, hide his disdain for this guy. I thought all that stuff was awesome. Yes. I really liked it.
And then it's over. I mean, the Klingons are there, and then the Klingons are just swept off the map by the weather. And the weather takes them all out except the one, and then the one woman gets captured. They're selling her, and Spock's like, I encourage you to buy her immediately. He says to Chernote, what for? Because she's got information we can use. More, and that information is, I know where my ship's at. And my ship is how you're going to get off the planet. I'm like, I literally wrote this down, Rob. I wrote down, they're going to rename it the SS Botany Bay. No, they're not. It's the HMS Bounty that they call the Klingon ship in Star Trek 4, not the Botany Bay. What the hell am I talking about? They don't know anything about the Botany Bay because, well, actually they should, because that was not from Star Trek 2. That was from Space Seed. The Botany
Yeah,
Bay
and I think you was the Botany Bay. Was that Moby Dick or not?
No, it was the people that got sent to Australia.
Oh yeah.
Prison
yeah, that's
college,
right.
Yeah, exactly.
That's right. It wasn't a book. Yeah, you're right. It wasn't a novel.
So long and the short of it, the Enterprise arrives at Sigma 1212 just as a Klingon scout ship is coming off the planet. They call yellow alert, but they cancel it when Uhura says, "It's Mr. Spock." And I was like, is this Star Trek 5? And now let me introduce you to my new gunner. There's no Klingons on the ship. They don't have any of the Klingons. They left the Klingon girl on the planet. I thought they'd bring her with them or something like that, but they left her on the planet because McCoy says nobody here but us chickens. When they ask her, "You have any Klingons on board?" or whatever.
Yeah, that's right.
And then we find out that the Klingon cruiser gets a name finally, the Nightwing, which I know we have seen as a Romulan ship name in this.
That's a Romulan name
so far.
That's a misstep by Weinstein or whatever his name was.
Yeah, but that being said, he got it on paper first, I suspect, because it's up novel 4. But yeah, it fits more. It fits more. Wing is like, well, the Romulans all have bird names and bird ships and stuff like that. So, there's that, and so they return. The ship comes up, and they tell them, "Yeah, by the way, they beam Kirk or rather, they beam Spock, McCoy, Kalen, and the Crown off the scout ship, and then they leave. So they leave the Klingons the scout ship." Their scout ship. They don't take it with them or whatever. So that might have been a prize, but they're more important things. They figure, oh well, they'll be happy that they still have their ship, whereas we have the thing we really need, which is the Crown.
Yeah.
So they take her. She learns about Stevan's death, and she takes it stoically. So she's growing already. Kirk finds out he's 10 pounds overweight, and then they find out no, it's actually just the scale's broken.
Which I find hard to believe on the Enterprise, but whatever, it's fine.
Yeah, it's fine. It's one of those things. Yeah, and then a rat shows up and it has the plague,
and then Fuzzy Butt scampers by, and then,
we're Horatioing. It's fun. So back in the capital of Shand, in the great hall of the Temple of the Covenant of the Crown of the King, and all the pomp and circumstance that makes us proud monarchists, they're having another bleepity bleep bleep banquet. Your Royal Highness, Kalen is dancing. That's when the young guy kicks in, and that's when Chekhov goes and it's a smorgasbord. I love it when they throw the word smorgasbord. That's the biggest word I ever learned when I was a little kid. I was a little kid, like 6 years old. I remember going to this place in Circle, Montana, that had a Friday night smorgasbord.
Wow.
And so we went there, and I don't remember anything about it. I can picture it. They had a big buffalo statue in the middle of the restaurant, and all the stuff is around that. I think I can picture it because I'm sure I've seen a picture of it. That's why I can picture it. I don't remember it.
Y'all a smorgasbord.
That's exactly right. So Bones and Kalen have their waltz, but then she meets the younger man, and the great circle of life continues, and that's our novel. So did they successfully land the story? Is what I'm saying.
I think so.
I do.
I thought it was. Yeah. I thought it was pretty good. I haven't ranked it yet, though. So let me find my.
I will say they weren't shooting for the stars with the ending for this one. It's a pretty simple story, but which is a lot more like the stories from the Bantam novel universe. Right? This felt a lot like I was getting like. Was it Spock Messiah, where it's like, yeah, we're in the kind of the era where the medieval forts and stuff are all around, and we got archers we got to deal with, and people get, tying us up with rope and leading us on to carts that are pulled by oxen and stuff like that. I was getting vibes like that.
Or even that planet in the cage Remember where, and later in Strange New Worlds, where
Yes.
Pike went, with
The Lotus, where the Lotus Eaters is the sequel from Strange New Worlds. But yeah, that's like Rigel 7 or something like that, I think.
yeah, that's right.
Yeah.
All right, let me see here. Checking my pocket. I found my Star Trek Finder. I just got to find the.
Well, while you're doing it, why don't I tell you where I've got it? We have 27 novels. This is number 27, and I have this at 18 out of the 27. Just behind The Wounded Sky, which we did not too long ago, and just ahead of Double Double. I definitely think it's a worthy novel. I think it was growing on me as I was reading later in the novel. I think they landed it, which the novels don't always do at the end. But like I said, it had a pretty easy ending. We just have to have the Return of the King ending, right? Where somebody's going to get a crown put on them, and then they're going to be a just ruler, and we'll have a feast, and you bow to no one, and all that stuff. And
yeah, I think I had this in like the top 10.
Oh, that's not too bad. Yeah.
I see that I still have not definitively gone through my scribbles, but somewhere in there I have. I'm going to put it. I don't remember which one was Mind Shadow.
Mind Shadow is the one where Spock has a great fall and has a brain damage.
Yeah, that was pretty good. Somewhere in there, 9 or 10.
All right. Well, that takes it. It turns out we normally at this point in our podcast roll the next novel, but we have rolled the next novel already, so we're just gonna pretend we rolled some dice and say the next novel that we rolled is very close to this one on the list. This one was number 4 that we just did, The Covenant of the Crown, and our next novel that we're gonna do is number 6, which is just like 5 months later or 6 months later that comes out. It is The Abode of Life.
Yeah, and I also don't. I remember having it and reading it, and it being one of the first ones I read, but I don't remember anything about it, and I probably will have the same low expectations I had for this one. Although I was pleasantly surprised with this one. So,
well, I can tell you at least a little bit about it because I happen to know about it because I have my copy of The Abode of Life. If I open it, it has a picture of Kirk and Spock from a very. I'm going to say motion picture looking uniforms on there too, with the Enterprise above them and Kirk holding a very alien laser pistol looking thing. And the inside cover says, "My 10th novel, Rob McCullough, also willed to Butch. Right now you hear Butchie Boy, signed Rob." this is your 10th novel.
Okay.
It's number 4. Because again, what do? We are buying them as they're coming out, but then we are also in between the ones as they came out. We will buy other ones and read the other ones.
Yeah.
Try and fill them in.
Oh, I missed used bookstores. I really do.
Yeah. Yes, and so So what we have a bookstore in town that has a new and used bookstore, but they don't have any. They have a couple used like Next Generation novels and stuff like that, but occasionally they'll get one of the pocket novels in there, or the TOS pocket novels, and every time they have it. If I don't have it, I buy it. Because someday we're going to end up doing 51 and 98, right? That's the
hell yeah, we are.
Yeah, but in the meantime, ladies and gentlemen, this has been Butch and Rob here talking about episode number 27. Join us for episode number 28 whenever we get around to finishing the book. That's the thing. We're kind of in that period where it's a lot less reliable of you just have to spend an hour watching an episode and then you can talk about an episode. And having to read a book is a commitment that work schedules do not always permit. So
they don't, but the summertime weather makes it better. Although I will say I cannot read in the backyard anymore because I'm watching 2 invisible cats who can jump the fence literally in 1 second. So my head's on a swivel. I'm not laying in the hammock.
You don't have them in the tunnel of death anymore.
No, I've been letting them. They think of the tunnel, what I call the catacombs, because it's massive. I spent like $600 piecing this thing together, and it's and then I might have told you this. Darlene and I watched Oz, the series, the prison series.
Yeah.
And so I've been calling it Pause. And so when I put them in that, so they were getting, like, come on, Warden.
Yeah.
So I let them out, but they will kind of like divide and conquer. So I have these 2 individual little invisible black cats that they'll lay low and then they'll be like under a bush, and then you'll see like the bush wiggling, and now they're at the top of the fence. 1 second from death. So I really can't just sit in the backyard and read. I can't even like look down. I can't.
And that's your reading. That's your reading Nirvana is the backyard, right? With the hammock with the shirt off and the sun out. Yeah, sun's out, buns out. Yeah, exactly. So
if I'm in the house, Darlene wants to watch something together. So
if it's 2027 by the time we get around to it, it won't be. We'll get around to it before then. If nothing else, we've got another Vegas trip planned for this year, so we'll be in Vegas.
There we go.
If nothing else, we'll be in Vegas for that, so we'll be able to read it on the plane trip there, the plane trip back, and on our pool time there, where no cats are jumping over fences, and if they are, there's somebody else's problem. So that's it for us this week. So Rob, take us out as you always do.
Live long and podcast, yeah. Boy, my Macho Man needs work. My Macho King, I should say, needs work.
Your Macho Covenant, the king of the crowd. It's exactly right.
Yes, I was trying. I'm rusty. I have to watch an old WrestleMania or something.
Ooh,
Get back into it.